Boker Tov. And we come to the last daf in the Seches Nedarim, and we thank Hashem Yisparach for giving us the strength to complete this daf yomi. And we pray that we are able to continue and do this Masechta together many, many more times. So let's start on the bottom of Tzadi Amud Beis. Amar Papa Badekon Rava. Rava asked us the question. He was our Rebbe and he was trying to test us. He was Badekon. He tested us. And he said, Eishes Kohen Shenensa. Let's say you have the wife of a Kohen who was assaulted. She was sexually assaulted. And so therefore, we know that the halacha is that if there's a woman who's married to a Yisrael, then if she is adulterous, she has to end the relationship. The relationship has to be terminated. He has to divorce her. But in the case where she was assaulted against her will, then she's allowed to remain married to her husband. But if she's married to a Kohen, then even though it was against her will, the marriage has to be terminated. This is part of the Kedusha, of the holiness of the Kohen. So now Rav asked his Talmidim the following question. And he didn't ask them the question with Maseches Nedarim open in front of him. He asked them, just generally speaking, he gave them a farher. It says, Eishes Kohen Shenensa. Let's say you have the wife of a Kohen who became assaulted, Rahman al-Islam. Yesh la ksuva, lein la ksuva. Does she get the ksuva payment or not? So generally speaking, a woman who gets divorced through a fault of her own does not get the ksuva. But if it's through no fault of her own, she gets the ksuva. So do we say, Kivan da ones lagabe Kohen, karatzon lagabe Yisrael? Do we say, since we compare the cases that a woman is married to a Kohen, if she's assaulted and she has to get divorced, like a woman who was willingly complicit in adultery, who would be married to an Israelite. So therefore, maybe since they're comparable, just like just like the woman who's married to the Israel who commits adultery doesn't get a ksuva, maybe the woman who's married to the Kohen doesn't get a ksuva. Odilma, or perhaps Matzi Amrle, maybe the wife of the Kohen could say to him, Ana Chazina, I have nothing wrong with me. Meaning to say, if I would be married to a Yisrael and I would have been assaulted, the marriage would not need to be terminated. The problem is you. The Gavra, on the top of Tzadi Alf Amud Alf, Gavra who did Nistachva Sadeo. It's your bad luck. Your field, so to speak, was flooded. Meaning to say, it's not my fault that you're a Kohen, and so therefore, it's as a result of that you need to pay me the ksuba. And so Rav Papa says that after Rava asked us this question, we responded to him, Mas Nisani, this is a Mishnah, it's an open Mishnah. Now we know that because we just learned to the Masechtas Nedarim, but they knew all of Shas, and probably Rava would be testing them from Nedarim because maybe Nedarim wasn't learned as much. So we say it's a Mishnah how Maris Tameya. Let's say the woman says, I am not able to be with you because I am Tameya. There's some defect. I can't remain married to you. Yesh la ksuva. Then she's entitled to the ksuva. So b'maya skinan. What case are we talking about where she says Tameya ani lacha, and therefore she gets a ksuva? What could possibly be the case? Say the students of Rabba Ilem of Eishes Yisrael. If you want to say it's a reference to a Yisrael's wife, well, it can't be, because why would she possibly be Tameya so that the marriage would have to end in divorce? If she was willingly adulterous, then she doesn't get a ksuva. Viva ones, and if she was assaulted against her will, mika mitzara agava, then she's not prohibited. If she's married to an Israelite, then her being assaulted, she's allowed to remain with her husband. So what are we talking about? The Eishes Kohen. We must be talking about a woman who's married to a Kohen. And what's the scenario? Ibiratzon, if she was willing accomplice, if she was willingly sinning with adultery, kum yesh la ksuba, she wouldn't get the ksuba. Migar Eishes Yisrael biratzon. She's no better than a regular Jew's wife who commits adultery, who gets divorced without a ksuba. So too, she wouldn't get a ksuba. So it must be talking about the wife of a Kohen Elav Ba'ones. Must be talking about the wife of a Kohen who gets assaulted. V'katani, and our Mishnah says explicitly, yesh la ksuva. She gets a ksuva. So now the Gemara asks the following question. The Gemara raises the following question. Amra Labala, that a woman says to her husband, because our Mishnah been talking about where the woman makes claims, and at first the Mishnah Rishona we believed it, but the Mishnah Achrona we didn't believe it. Mishnah reversed itself. So now Rav Amnuna says, the Gemara says, so let's say a woman says to her husband, Gerashtani, you divorced me. Yeah, we had a divorce ceremony. We did a divorce. We went to the Beis Din of Las Vegas. We did a divorce. And you don't remember, but we did it. Or maybe you do remember it. Anyway, she says, she claims she was divorced from him. So Mao, what's the law? So Amar Rav Amnuna Tashma. So Rav Amnuna says, let me give you an answer on the basis of our Mishnah. If a woman says, I was assaulted, even, so remember we said if a woman said I was assaulted, we're talking about the wife of a Kohen, according to the Mishnah Rishona, we believe her, but then the Mishnah reversed itself and said we don't believe her because we're worried she was maybe lying in order to be with another man, to get divorced so she could be with another man. So now Rav Amnuna is trying to bring a proof to answer this question if a woman claims she was divorced. So he says, if a woman says, even according to the reversal of the Mishnah, the second Mishnah, the Katani Lomahem that says we don't believe her, why don't we believe her there? There we say we don't believe her, that maybe she's lying. The Yada, the Baal will Yadaba, because she knows that her husband, the Yada, the Baal Yadaba, she knows that her husband doesn't really know whether or not she was assaulted. So she knows she could lie and her husband wouldn't be able to catch her. And so therefore we don't believe her. But in the case where she says she was divorced, the Yadaba, she knows that her husband knows if she's lying. Mehemna, then we're going to believe her. The Chazaka in Isha Meiza Panea B'fnei Bala. Because we have a principle. A woman is not going to be so brazen as to lie in front of her husband. If her husband knows he didn't divorce her, she's not going to say, you divorced me. That's not the way human nature is to lie like that. And so therefore, if she says she was divorced, or Rav Amnuna says we believe her. Even according to the Mishnah Achrona. Amalei Rava responds, Rava responds just the opposite. I feel a Mishnah Rishona, even according to the first approach. The Katani Mehemna, even according to the first Mishnah that says Rava, Adrava, feel Mishnah Rishona de Katani. Mehemna, even according to the first approach, it says we believe her if she says she was assaulted. The only reason why we believe her there is because a woman is not going to want to lie. She's going to be too embarrassed, we say, to make up a lie like that. No woman wants to make up a lie and be embarrassed like that. But here in this case, she wants to get away from her husband. She wants to show her husband that she's stronger than him. Meaning to say, she wants to really be a thorn in her husband's side. So, or else the Mefarsh gives another explanation. Maybe she has such a strong desire to be with another man. Me'iza. She is going to be chutzpah and lie straight to his face. So therefore, Rava says, we don't believe her. So the Gemara challenges Masav Rav Masharshia. So the Gemara challenges Rava's approach, who says we don't believe her. Why? Because it says Hashemayim beini u'beinecha. That what's the second case of the Mishnah, where she claims her husband was impotent. That the Mishnah Rishona, that in the second case of the Mishnah, we believe her, where she's coming along with the claim that her husband was impotent. And so this is to Yufta de Rava, because Hacha delays like Kisufa. This is the reputation of Rava, because there's no embarrassment to her in this case. And meaning to say, she's not the one who's saying she was assaulted. She's saying her husband is impotent. And yet still we believe her. So isn't this a proof that even in a case where she's not embarrassed, we still would believe her claim? Gemara says, no, Kasava Rava, no, Rava says she is embarrassed there. Hasam, keeping the Sagiwe, the Lo Amra, and Yorakachates, Ilo Isakidika Amra, Lo Amra way. So, meaning Rava says there, in that case, since they're not going to let her get away with just saying my husband is impotent, they're going to ask her to give a precise explanation of how he is impotent. And she's going to have to go into the graphic details of basically her physical encounter, her intercourse with her husband. And so therefore she wouldn't make up this lie. She wouldn't embarrass herself unless she was telling the truth. And that's why we would believe her. But in general, if she's just saying she wasn't divorced, we're not going to believe her. She would make that up, says Rava. So Gemara says, now let's go back and let's ask the question of Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna would say, it says we believe her because chazaka, there's a presumption the woman is not going to be so chutzpahdik as to lie to her husband, and so we would believe her. So the Gemara says, but Hashemayim beinil beinecha, the Mishnah Achrona tiyavetiyuf to Rav Hamnuna. The latter case of the Mishnah where it's talking about her husband's impotence, where we say we don't believe him, this is a refutation of Rav Hamnuna. Remember, Rav Hamnuna said that we believe her if she claims she was divorced. Here in this case, she knows that whether or not he's impotent, and she knows that her husband knows whether or not he's impotent, and we don't believe him. We don't believe her. So even in a case where she wouldn't be so chutzpahdik as to lie straight to her husband's face because it's about something that he knows for sure, still we don't believe him. So isn't this a refutation of Rav Hamnuna? The verse says, no, because Rav Hamnuna, hachanami, he kufa amra. No, Rav Hamnuna says, no, this case also, it's not a case where she thinks he knows, because he gufa amra, she herself will be saying to herself, I can lie because my husband doesn't know. Nihid b'biyah yada. Granted, he knows that we had intercourse, but b'yora kachetz mi yada. She doesn't know, she says to herself, he doesn't know the nature of how his body functions. He knows part of it, but he doesn't know all the details. And so therefore, he's not going to be completely aware of whether or not he's impotent. And so therefore, so therefore, she would lie. So therefore, it's not a refutation of Rav Hamnuna. So now we finish with several agadata at the end of the tractate. And the basic concept with all this agadata is that the Gemara is trying to say, find a way to keep the marriages together, because the Nedarim is all about vows, is all about people getting upset in a moment's notice, and then the rabbis are trying to figure out a way to undo the proclamation or the action to try and move forward in our personal relationships. And that's what these cases really are about. So there was a woman, they call Yoma de Tashmish Mikdama Mashia Yadel Gavra. Every day after she had intercourse with her husband, in the morning, she would be Mashia Yadel Gavra. She would wash her husband's hands. But Yom Achada, one morning, one day she brought the water to wash his hands, and Amar, he said to her, what are you doing? We didn't have any activity last night. So she says to him, Amrlane said to him, what? Wasn't you? There were some of these merchants, these non-Jewish merchants who were here. If you're not the one who was with me, then maybe one of them was with me. Rav Nachman says we don't believe her. And Rav Nachman says we say we don't believe her. This was a case where a woman she was married to a Kohen, so even if it was not willingly on her part, she would have been prohibited, but we say we don't believe her. I think maybe she has her mind set upon a different man, and we don't believe her, so they stay together. The second case was Hahi Itisa. There was a woman, one morning she was upset with her husband. Amar La, he said to her, what I do today? Amar La, she said to him, so she said to him, it was not enjoyable last night. It was very painful. So Amar La, he said to her, Lo avat hada milsa. He said, what are you talking about? We weren't together last night. So Amar La, she said to him, Im kain, halin nachram naftuye davohacha. She said, well, it must have been one of those merchants who was passing through. Amar La Rav Nachman, lo tashkichun bei. Lo tashkichun ba. No senas einah ba'achar habi. Don't pay any attention to her. She must have been. It's the same idea. We're concerned that maybe she had her eyes on somebody else, and so we're not going to listen to her. The third case was Ahu Gavra Da'ave Maharzik. Maharzik means secluded. So there was a certain man who was secluded, Bebesa. He was a certain man who was secluded in the house. Who V'intasa? He and this married woman. Oh, I married the Besa. So the woman's husband came into the house. Parte noef lahotse. So the adulterer pushed through some parte noef lahutza va'arak. He pushed through some palm fronds that were standing there as like a partition, and he ran away. Amar Rava Isisa Sharia. Rava said the woman's going to be permitted, even though we have eyewitness testimony here that there was a man running away. He said to him, Isa the Avad Isura, if he really had done a sin, he would have been more careful. He would have hid better, and so therefore this not proof that he did a sin with her, and she's allowed to remain with her husband. Oh no, so there was this adulterer who was with this woman. So then a man came, her husband came home, and Salak Noaif and Asiv Beklai Bava. So when her husband came home, what happened was that the adulterer went and he hid behind the door. And so having mochtan tachli taman, so they had put some food there, some vegetables, v'ta'imnun chaviya, and then a snake had tasted it, and we see from several places in Shas that makes the food dangerous. So by Mari de Beza, Mamechom and Anu Tachli, so the husband came to try to eat from this food without the wife knowing. Meanwhile, the adulterer was right behind the food. If the adulterer said to the husband, don't eat from the food, because the snake ate from it. Amar Rava, so Rava said, Intasa Sharia. He said the wife is permitted. Because if she had really done a prohibition, then the adulterer would have wanted the husband to die. So therefore, therefore he would have wanted him to die. As it states in the verse, because they are adulterers and they have blood on their hands, which proves that the adulterers are also murderers. So therefore, he would have. So that from the fact that he didn't want to kill him, it proves he's not an adulterer. So the rest of all that's obvious. Pshita, of course, he's not an adulterer. And the rest of you might have thought he's an adulterer. Maldutema, you might have said Isura Abad. You might have said he did a prohibition. The Amarway, and the reason why the adulterer told the husband that this is poison is the Nichoy de Lemus Pal. He didn't want the husband to die. That the Avi Intisai Lave. Mayim genuvim yimtaku v'lachem sesarim yin. He wanted to fulfill the verse from Proverbs, which says he preferred her to be married when he was committing adultery, because it says stolen waters is sweeter and the hidden bread is taste better. So Kamash more, we don't say that. So Hadranalach, Nedarim. We're going to actually do a siyum on Maseches Nedarim on Shabbos Kodesh. But for now, we'll start Maseches Nazir. Let me just stop the recording and we'll start Maseches Nazir. Tonight, we're going